Hi everybody, thanks for being here. This video is just of me showing you my practice boards. I have these two birch panels. They're very thin. Birch is a nice surface to paint on, but these are a little bit too thin, they warp. So I use them as practice panels. So for example, here you can see me just practicing with a stencil. I'm just checking it out, seeing what it looks like, trying it with a couple of different shades of paint. That was Payne's Gray, which is one of my favorite colors. It's not quite dark enough to be black, you know? This here is one of my favorite tools ever. You're going to hear my dog in the background. He's squeaking a ball. But this tool is one of my absolute favorites. This is a scraper that I got from Amazon. It's just a rubber scraper. It has a very straight and very thin edge, which allows for really nice lines. I love to use the palette knife as a little bit of a, almost like a writing utensil. Put some lines in there, put some texture in the paint, lift the paint in little small ways to reveal what's happening underneath. This is alizarin crimson, really beautiful shade of red. This is cadmium yellow. So I've got some white there, some cadmium yellow, and yep, some more white. So this is just a beautiful shade. Now, that spatula there, that paint scraper, had a teeny tiny bit of alizarin crimson on it. So that shade of yellow is just slightly muted instead of being brilliant bright. And that's a beautiful buttery creamy shade of yellow. And that's one of the things that I like to do with these practice panels, is I use them to find techniques that I really like, that I want to use in my actual pieces, find colors that I like. It's a way of practicing with paint, but feeling like I'm not wasting it. Now that pink that I just picked up on my spatula, that is fluorescent pink, which is one of my favorite colors to work with recently. I have to be careful with it though. It can be super bright, as you can see in that pink stencil off to the right. But when you add it to other colors as a mixing color, it obviously modifies the original color, but because it's a fluorescent color, it adds life. It's just a really nice shade. I really love it. It's one of my favorite. And this is just a painter's straight edge. It's one of the corner tools, you know. If you're painting a room, you put that in the corner or along the molding to prevent paint from transferring. But, you know, I use it in this way. And here I am just scraping off the paint that's left on the spatula. Looks pretty next to that shade of blue. Would be interesting to see what other shades of blue look nice. Like perhaps, so that blue, that nice brilliant blue there off to the left is ultramarine. And what would it look like if I were to mix in some Payne's Gray? I don't know. I haven't done that. Maybe I'll do that next time and show you. And here I'm turning. Now I'm turning the panel. Why do I do that? Well, obviously so I can reach other parts of the panel more easily. But the other thing that does, it changes the perspective. So as I look at the painting, I see different things. Different things come to the forefront. Different things jump out at me. I'll do this in my actual paintings also. I'm working on a series right now. Oh, that's just a toilet paper roll. Found objects. They're wonderful to paint with. But as I was saying, I'm working on a series right now And I do turn it upside down, the individual pieces, the individual paintings. There are 5 of them. And as I'm painting, at times if I get stuck, I don't quite know where to move from there, I'll turn them upside down, and then all of a sudden I see it in a completely new way. And here's a wonderful technique, just removing some of the paint. Now this is acrylic paint. Acrylic paint dries really fast, and as I'm painting this, the window's open and it's a little bit windy, so the wind is coming in. It's making the paint dry even faster. Now if you wanted to have longer paint time, longer workable time, you could add a medium to lengthen the time. There is an acrylic painting medium that lengthens the dry time, slows it down. Or you could do what one of my favorite artists, Pamela K. Beer, what she does, she uses oil paint and mixes in cold wax. So it creates this beautiful sort of transparency, but because it's oil paint, it takes a while to dry. So she has workability for much longer than I do with acrylics. I haven't actually worked with oil paint since college, mostly because I feel like I don't have the patience for the dry time. But I'll probably try them out at some point, see what I think. But for now, I'm all about acrylics. Acrylics and acrylic pens and acrylic inks. I like using all sorts of different things here. That tool that I'm using right now is called a brayer. And all I'm doing there is I'm lifting off the paint ridge at the edge. I just didn't want it to smudge. Adding little touches of white. Here I'm working a little left-handed. My right hand is my very dominant hand. And sorry that we've moved out of the frame just a little bit. But my dominant hand is my right hand by far. So whenever I work with my left, the marks end up being a little less controlled, which can create some really interesting marks. And here I noticed there was this little drop of paint that slightly resembled a heart, so I'm carving it in there. But as I'm painting, like I said, I use these boards for practice, to practice colors, to practice techniques, to practice marks, and also to practice paying attention to my intuition. So the goal is not to create a beautiful, stunning, finished piece of art. I'll just continue working with these panels continuously. I may sand them down at some point. I may paint over them in white gesso and start again. But they're just for practice. And like I said, I practice colors, techniques, marks. And tools, practice with tools. It allows me to see what I like, see what I don't, find new color combinations that I like, find shades of colors that I mix accidentally. So I'm using this brayer again. And what I did here was apply paint to the brayer with my paint scraper, but only along one side. So as I roll the brayer, and again, I apologize for it being outside the frame. As I roll the brayer, you notice that the paint only transfers when that side of the brayer touches the surface. It creates a really, really neat effect. I like it quite a bit. Now, this is a second panel. No transition there. We just moved directly into it. This is the other panel. This panel I did not prime before starting. So if you look closely, you'll notice some wood grain, especially in that blue corner. The paint's just kind of soaking right in, which is an interesting effect. As I apply more layers of paint, it'll stop doing that. Scraping, scraping, scraping. Now these are actually bullet casings that I'm using to create those beautiful little circles. My father likes to shoot at the gun range. He practices. And sometimes the bullet casings get stuck in his boots. So when that happens, I collect them, putting them in a little glass jar, and then I can use them for applications like this. And because they're metal, they hold their shape and they clean really easily, and I can keep them forever. And I have all different sizes. I use them a lot. I like them quite a bit. I can use them to remove paint, just like I did there. I can also use them to apply paint by dipping them into a color and then touching it to the painting surface. And you'll notice that, I think that a lot of times people think abstract painting happens quickly, and in some cases it does. But you'll notice here, the last clip, the other board, I sped up because it was a long clip. This one, I didn't. This one is real time, and you'll notice that I'm not moving quickly. I'm taking my time. I'm just listening to what my inner artist is telling me to do. And I do it. And sometimes it turns out really neatly, and sometimes it doesn't. So here, for example, this peachy color, I'm applying it on top of blue. That blue underneath influences what that peach ends up looking like, which is a really interesting thing. And here I use my palette knife to scrape and scratch. I like those aggressively curly lines. I'm curvy, excuse me. Now here is where I really start enjoying the colors that I end up mixing. I just added some alizarin crimson to that peachy color, and it started to create this beautiful blush. And as I add more to it, it begins to make a beautiful shade of rose. And you'll see it starting to reveal itself right there. And mixing the paint on the painting surface instead of on the palette allows for sort of gradients, as you can see right there, which I like a lot too, instead of having perfectly opaque colors. Or I guess I should say solid. Isn't that a beautiful shade of rose? I liked it so much I actually incorporated it into the series that I'm working on. I had not intended to have a shade like that in the series, but it works really beautifully. And it was just by accident that I discovered it as I was practicing on these panels. It's a nice warm-up activity too to practice on these panels. Come into the studio, pull the panels out, and just paint and not worry about the outcome. It's very freeing. More scraping. I don't want to waste any paint, so I scrape it off and apply it with another tool. So in a minute, you're going to see some close-ups of this board. So here we are with some of the close-ups. Aren't they fun to look at? I love looking at them. The textures and the shapes. But thank you for watching. Don't forget to click or comment and subscribe and like and all of that stuff. Thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate you.